Survival mode is not a personality trait, it's a response. Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me here today. If you're new, I'm Amanda. Welcome to the channel where we are all about shattering the mental health stigma. I'm a survivor of my own hand, of addiction, of narc abuse. A lot of stuff has tried to take me out. I wound up getting a bachelor's degree in forensic psychology, and I just like exploring music from a mental health lens and sharing my experience and my expertise about the lyrics. Today I'm doing a first time listen to Happy by NF, so I have done a couple of other NF reactions here on the channel, but I've never heard this one. This was a request from one of my amazing Patreons. If you haven't had a chance to check out my Patreon, please make sure to do so. Link is in the description. Every single dime goes toward my mental health outreach so I can help pay for therapy for community members, help veterans, help the homeless, help individuals who are in need of some mental health guidance. You can also check out my Happiness Boost course, which lays out the exact steps I took to go from being on a ledge where I was ready to end it all to living a happy, healthy, fulfilling life. That will also be linked in the description below. I've come to conclude that I have no perception of time anymore, because every time I go to react to an artist that I've already reacted to, I think, oh yeah, I just did that a few months ago, and then realize it's been 2 years, and this is no exception. I thought I'd just done an NF reaction last year and realized that it's been a couple of years, so I'm really excited to dive back into his work.
Dear God, please hear me out. I know it's been a couple years since I've reached out and said hello. I bet you're wondering why I keep obsessing on and stressing all the little things when I should be living life and soaking up the memories. I know I've been selfish, I have no excuse to give you it's true. Hanging by a thread's how I live. I don't know why, but I feel more comfortable.
This isn't an excuse, first and foremost. This is a result of trauma that was never resolved. So I'm assuming that this is the same woman, that it's showing her as a child going through the trauma. Looks like a passed out parent who was under the influence, and now she is taking on that generational trauma, and she's drinking, she's smoking to cope with trauma that she never was able to process. What immediately stands out to me, though, is the tone of apology, not just to God, but to life itself. That this feels like someone who is living in chronic hypervigilance, which will happen when you are the child of someone who struggles with addiction, where obsessing, stressing over all the little things isn't a flaw, but it's ironically a nervous system that's stuck in survival mode. I was just opening the video with that quote, and I had no idea what the song was going to be about. That was complete happenstance. But when your brain has learned that safety is fragile, it doesn't prioritize joy or memories. It prioritizes vigilance. And the line, "I know I've been selfish," that reflects really deep internalized shame, something we often see in trauma and depression. Its pain is treated like a moral failure instead of a psychological and emotional state, instead of the response that it is. It's a natural response. But people, I think, start apologizing for their suffering as if they chose it, as if she chose to be born into this family, which I guess certain religions do believe that, but I do not. So she's feeling like she chose to be born into this family, into this bad situation, and hanging by a thread is how I live. That's not metaphorical, really. It's a baseline. That's the baseline for where she's at. Instability is familiar, and calm can actually feel unsafe. And I know that sounds crazy to anyone who hasn't experienced it, but this is why the unfinished thought, "I don't know why," that's, but I feel more comfortable. That's what's hitting me real hard. Many people feel more at ease in distress than at peace, not because they are drama queens, not because they want pain, not because they are asking for it, not because they invite it, but because it's predictable, and that can bring its own comfort. This resonates with me so deeply because the exhaustion of wanting relief while feeling guilty for needing it, wanting to be heard while believing you're asking for too much, while believing that you don't deserve to be seen, that you're not worthy, that you don't deserve love. This doesn't feel like a prayer of belief or disbelief per se, despite the fact that it's dear God. It feels like a prayer of survival, spoken by someone who has been strong for way too long. And that was what really started to sink in for me. Is I hate it when people say, "Oh, you're so strong." Well, I don't want to be strong anymore. I'm strong because I was forced to be, because I didn't have a choice.
Living in my agony, watching my self-esteem go up in flames, acting like I don't care what anyone else thinks, when I know truthfully that that's the furthest thing from how I feel. But I'm too proud to open up and ask you to pick me up and pull me out this hole I'm trapped in. The truth is I need help, but I just can't imagine who I'd be if I was happy. Yeah, been this way so long it feels like something's off when I'm not depressed. I got some issues that I won't address. I got some baggage I ain't open yet. I got some demons I should put to rest. I got some traumas that I can't forget. I got some phone calls I've been avoiding, some family members I don't really connect with, some things I said I wish I would've not let slip, some hurtful words that never should've left my lips, some bridges burned I'm not ready to rebuild yet, some insecurities I haven't dealt with yet. I'll be the first to admit that I'm a lonely soul, and the last to admit I need a hand to hold.
Oh my god, I just have to stop for a second because it's getting really heavy. I think this section reads like a brutally honest inventory of what unresolved trauma does to identity over time. When someone says that they're living in agony while watching their self-esteem burn, that's the erosion that happens when pain becomes chronic instead of episodic. It stops being something you're experiencing and it starts becoming part of your identity, part of who you are. You accept that as part of yourself. The mask of I don't care what anyone thinks. We all care to some degree what someone thinks, and that's a protective measure. When we say that, it's a classic defense, because caring deeply and being disappointed repeatedly is more threatening than pretending indifference. But what really lands here is the admission of pride, not arrogance, but of protective pride. The kind that keeps you from asking for help, because needing help feels like erasing yourself. It feels like if you accept that help, if you do change, if something does improve, that now you're betraying yourself in some way. It's like your shadow wants to survive. It wants to continue existing. And so there's a fear of erasing that part of yourself. The line, "I can't imagine who I'd be if I was happy," that literally took my breath away. Literally, I don't know if you saw it. There was just kind of it's especially important clinically from a psych perspective, because when depression lasts long enough, like I said, it fuses with identity. Relief doesn't feel like healing, it feels like loss, and there's that part that's clinging on to ourselves. That's why something feels off when I'm not depressed. It's because we've been in that sense for so long. It makes sense. The nervous system adapts to pain as normal, and anything outside of that feels unfamiliar, it feels unsafe. We've now categorized that as being unsafe. The rapid list of unaddressed issues, the traumas, the avoided calls, the fractured relationships, the unrepaired bridges, all of that mirrors what we see in trauma avoidance and emotional backlog. Not a lack of accountability, but overwhelm. When everything hurts, the brain postpones repair just to survive. So a lot of people will say, "Why aren't you doing the work? Why aren't you trying to get better?" Because they're still stuck in survival mode. They don't know how to do the work. They don't know how to get out of that part of just needing to feel comfort and need to feel something familiar. I feel this naming, honestly, this quiet fear inside of me that I, like so many people, carry, that healing might require becoming something unrecognizable, someone unrecognizable, and that staying broken, well, that's painful, but at least it's known.
Hope, headed down a dangerous road. Strange, I know, but I feel most at home when I'm living in my agony, watching my self-esteem go up in flames, acting know truthfully that that's the furthest thing from how I feel, but I'm too proud to open up and ask you to pick me up and pull me out this hole I'm trapped in. The truth is I need help, but I just can't imagine who I'd be if I was happy. Don't know what's around the bend. Don't know what my future is, but I can't keep on living in.
Am I the only one that's getting Smile vibes here, where it feels like she's not processing her childhood trauma, which is leading to more trauma, but it's like she's putting on this face to cover the trauma. And the dad here, I presume the dad here is, there's kindness, there's I'm gonna throw you this birthday party, I'm gonna be nice to you. Number one, that will confuse a victim, because now they're saying, oh, they did this nice thing for me, whether they're kids or adults, they did this nice thing for me, so they must be nice people and it's just me overreacting, right? I don't know how this birthday party is gonna end, but I just want to say that even the most abusive person will do nice things sometimes because it keeps the victim confused, and in adult situations it's more likely to keep them attached, to keep them staying with the abuser.
Living in my agony, watching my self-esteem go up in flames, acting like I don't care what anyone else thinks, when I know truthfully that that's the furthest thing from how I feel, but I'm too proud to open up and ask you to pick me up and pull me out this hole I'm trapped in. The truth is I need help, but I just can't imagine who I'd be if I was happy. If I was happy. If I was happy.
Okay, so I'm a little bit confused, but to my understanding of the video, the little girl represents her and her own daughter. So it's representing the trauma that she hasn't faced, but it's also representing the trauma that she's passing on because she's gotten into the same situation, which is very common for people who have gone through child abuse, that they will later find partners that also become abusive and stuff, and they don't know how to get out of that situation. Even if they have children, even if they love their children, it can be very difficult to get out of that situation, especially if you're very entrenched in the abuse, because they can control your finances, they control your social circles, so it's not as easy as people think to get out, but it's always possible to do so. And the first step is creating a safety plan. If anyone out there needs help doing so, please make sure you email me and I will link you with some resources. I'll get you connected to some resources to begin making that safety plan. I just want you to know you're not alone. But I'm thinking the whole time, have Ren and NF done a collab and I've just never heard about it? Because if not, they need to get on that. Ren and NF need to get together and collab. I feel like NF's music feels less like performance and more like cognitive exposure therapy set to a beat, where every verse is an argument between self-protection and self-honesty. And this last part really feels like the emotional thesis of the song, and I think I'm getting the interpretation correctly, because the woman looked very similar, so I was kind of getting confused on characters there for a minute. I'm gonna assume I got the interpretation correctly. But loneliness paired with pride, desperation paired with identity confusion, that's what I'm getting here. So I actually kind of like that it makes it a little confusing for who's who in this video, because the women look so similar, because that kind of just further reflects identity confusion. So I thought that was really interesting. Admitting I'm a lonely soul while being the last to admit I need a hand to hold. You know, everybody deserves a hand to hold, but especially a child. Every child deserves to have their hand held, to be comforted, to be loved. But I think that captures the push-pull of avoidant coping, because you're wanting connection, but you're fearing the vulnerability that requires. The repetition of living in my agony, that isn't dramatization. I think that one of my biggest peeves is when people say that you're being dramatic, you're not wanting to heal, you're not wanting to get better, you're staying stuck. That is toxic to say that to someone. It's not dramatization. It reflects how chronic emotional pain, again, like I said, can become like the psychological home base. And when depression or trauma lasts long enough, the nervous system calibrates to it. And harmful states feel familiar and safe, which is why the line "I feel most at home when I'm" is so unsettling and so honest. It's I can never come to terms with the fact that this is a reality for so many people, for so many children, that this is the reality. And I can't fathom that. I'm like, why did you have children? Why did you keep this child? Why did you not give this child up for adoption or something? Like, give them a chance. I can't understand, even through all my psych classes, how people arrive at this other than just unresolved trauma of their own. And I think that's why it's important that we are continuing to work on resolving trauma and stuff so we don't get into this cycle. I think the self-esteem going up in flames, alongside pretending not to care, like I said, defense mechanism, detachment is self-protection, admitting how much other people's perceptions matter opens the door to more hurt. And I think that's why so many people are, oh, I don't care what anybody else thinks. Like I said earlier, I don't believe that. I believe everybody cares. It's human nature to want to be approved of in some way, because we are a pack species, and if we don't have the approval of others, then we can get ostracized from the pack. And if we're ostracized in the old days, traditionally, we wouldn't be able to survive. If we didn't have the pack, we wouldn't be able to survive. I think that the whole song really is just etched on my soul at this, like, it felt like this was reading something that was just engraved into my soul. I felt this. I still struggle with it. That fear of asking for help, not because you don't need it, but because you don't know who you are without the struggle. You don't know who you are without that, because it's been there as far back as you can remember. Your shadow's been there and been loud as far back as you can remember when you've experienced an ACE or adverse childhood experience, an ACE. You've had that as far back as you remember. You don't know who else you are. You don't know how to start building another identity. The uncertainty of the future isn't just about circumstances, it's about selfhood. This isn't resistance to healing. Like, that's the message I really want to drive home. This isn't resistance to healing. It's grief for the version of yourself that survived by suffering, and the terrifying question of who you might be if you finally let yourself be held. If you finally held yourself, if you finally gave into someone else seeing you and holding space for you and maybe physically putting their arms around you, whatever the case is, you deserve to be held. And when you finally allow that, then you finally allow healing. But that is a very vulnerable place to be, and it's a very difficult journey to get to a place of being ready to be held, whether physically or metaphorically, whether by a therapist, a partner, a friend, a parent, whatever the case is. Again, I just want you to know that you are not alone. If you are going through this, no matter your age, no matter where you are in your journey, if you're going through this, this is a safe space for you to express. If we can connect you with resources, we will. And I just want you to know that you can share your mental health stories here in the comments, good, bad, and crazy. That's how we shadow the mental health stigma, is by talking about it. I am just always especially heartbroken to know that this happens to children. So I am very big on doing what I can to make children feel safe, to get them out of these situations. When my son Bryson was younger, he used to make this super scary monster spray. He actually designed the label up himself, and it was an essential oil mixture where it was essential oils that are supposed to feel comforting and stuff, so that if a child is in a situation where they feel unsafe, he would give it to them, because he was a BACA child. So he would give it to them so they had something that could scare the monsters away and make them feel just a little bit safer. And I think every kid deserves that. Every kid deserves something to scare the monsters away. So I hope that we can be that on some level. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, share it. You never know who might need to see it, and getting somebody connected with resources could save their lives. I love you guys so much. Thank you for holding space with me, and I'll see you again real soon.